What if the gods of ancient myths weren't just stories? What if they actually walked among humans, fought alongside kings, inspired wars, and changed history forever? From ancient Greece to the jungles of Mesoamerica, shocking legends reveal physical encounters between gods and mortals. But could there be truth behind these tales? Across many ancient cultures, gods weren't seen as distant beings trapped in the skies. They lived among humans, eating, fighting, and even falling in love with mortals. But was this just mythological storytelling, or is there evidence suggesting otherwise? We'll explore this question by uncovering myths of divine encounters from Greece, Egypt, and beyond. Stay with us until the end because we'll reveal intriguing theories, some even linking ancient gods to extraterrestrial visitors. What if the beings we once called gods weren't as mythical as we think? Could they have been real all along? So, before you dismiss these ancient stories as pure fantasy, consider this. Why would so many different cultures, separated by time and geography, share the same idea of gods walking among them? Could these shared beliefs point to a forgotten truth in human history? Let's dive deep into the myths of ancient civilizations. We'll explore tales where gods and humans interacted directly, sometimes changing the course of history itself. And as we explore these myths, ask yourself, were these divine encounters real or symbolic? Let's find out. Divine encounters. Throughout history, humans have told stories of gods visiting the earth. From ancient Greece to South America, these myths describe gods descending from the heavens, disguised as humans or beasts, to test or guide humanity. But why did these cultures believe gods needed physical forms at all? Could there have been more to it than symbolism? In some stories, gods appeared human, like Zeus disguised as a shepherd or Odin as an old man. In others, they took monstrous forms, giants, serpents, or creatures beyond human comprehension. These appearances weren't just symbolic, they were seen as literal interactions between gods and men. Could ancient eyewitnesses have mistaken advanced beings for gods? Some myths go even further, describing battles between gods and mortals or romances that produce demigods. Why would people invent such vivid tales unless they believed these events truly happened? Some historians argue that these stories reflected deeper human fears and aspirations, but others suggest ancient civilizations recorded what they actually experienced. The big question is, were these divine encounters symbolic, or were they based on real phenomena? One theory proposes that gods were celestial beings, perhaps even extraterrestrial visitors who interacted with ancient humans. This idea, while controversial, could explain why gods appeared physically in so many cultures. It's fascinating that myths like these weren't limited to one region. Greeks, Norsemen, Egyptians, and Mayans all shared the idea of gods descending to Earth. Did they all imagine the same things, or were they describing actual encounters from a shared distant past? As we explore specific myths from Greece, Egypt, and more, keep in mind that many of these cultures believed these encounters were real. Let's begin our journey with the gods of ancient Greece. Greek and Roman myths, gods walking among mortals. Ancient Greek myths are filled with stories of gods directly interacting with humans. One of the most famous examples is Zeus, the king of the gods, who often descended to Earth in various disguises. Sometimes, he appeared as an eagle, a bull, or even a humble traveler. His purpose? To test the loyalty of mortals, or pursue romantic conquests. But were these just myths, or did the Greeks believe these events actually occurred? One famous example is the story of Leda and the swan. Zeus transformed himself into a swan and seduced Leda, a queen of Sparta. This encounter allegedly led to the birth of Helen of Troy, whose beauty would spark the Trojan War. Myths like this weren't simply entertainment, they were often treated as part of Greek religious belief. Perhaps the most convincing evidence of physical divine encounters lies in the story of Hercules. Born from the union of Zeus and a mortal woman, Hercules was seen as proof of gods physically interacting with humanity. His incredible strength and divine mission to complete the 12 labors further cemented his role as a bridge between gods and men. During the Trojan War, gods didn't just observe from above, they intervened on the battlefield. Athena guided warriors, Ares fought alongside soldiers, and Apollo cursed enemy armies. To the Greeks, these stories were real explanations of why certain battles were won or lost. Temples were built as places where divine encounters could occur. At Delphi, for instance, worshippers believed the oracle received messages directly from Apollo. Could it be that the Greeks weren't imagining gods visiting their world, but recording events they believed were real? The Greeks' unwavering belief in gods walking among them raises a question. Were they experiencing something beyond what modern science can explain, or was this an ancient method of explaining the mysteries of life? Norse myths, Odin and Thor among men. The Norse didn't see their gods as distant or abstract beings. To them, gods like Odin and Thor were real, physical entities who traveled the earth and interacted with humans. Odin, often called the Wanderer, was known for disguising himself as a human, wandering the world in search of wisdom or to test people's loyalty. In many myths, Odin is depicted as an old man with a long beard, wearing a wide-brimmed hat and a cloak. He visited kings and commoners, offering cryptic advice or magical blessings. But unlike symbolic figures, Odin's interactions often had tangible consequences, blessings for those who passed his tests or curses for those who failed. Thor, the god of thunder, was another deity known for his physical presence. Armed with his magical hammer, Mjolnir, Thor often fought giants and other monsters on Earth. His battles weren't seen as abstract stories but as literal events that shaped the world. The Norse people believed that gods weren't just present in the afterlife, they could physically appear during moments of crisis. Many warriors prayed to Thor for protection, believing he could intervene directly in battles. This belief shaped their understanding of war and fate. But were these encounters simply heroic tales meant to inspire warriors, or did the Norse truly believe their gods walked among them? Considering the frequency of such stories, it's likely they believed their gods were as real as the storms Thor supposedly controlled. The Norse myths remind us that, for ancient cultures, the line between myth and reality was blurred. Were their gods figures of imagination, or did they experience phenomena that convinced them otherwise? Ancient Egypt, pharaohs as living gods. In ancient Egypt, the line between gods and humans was even thinner. Pharaohs weren't just seen as political leaders, they were considered living gods. The divine authority of a pharaoh came from the belief that they were descendants of the gods or even direct incarnations. One of the most powerful symbols of this belief was the god Horus, who was often depicted as a falcon-headed deity. Egyptian myths describe how Horus physically manifested to protect and guide the pharaoh. Statues and inscriptions throughout Egypt show this close connection, blurring the line between myth and reality. Another important figure in divine encounters was Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Many stories describe pharaohs communicating directly with Osiris through rituals or visions. Some temples were believed to be gateways where this communication happened. One of the most mysterious cases is that of Akhenaten, the pharaoh who introduced monotheism by worshipping Aten, the sun disk. Was his sudden religious shift inspired by a divine encounter, or was it the result of visionary experiences? Some theorists even suggest Akhenaten's visions could have extraterrestrial origins. Modern interpretations vary, but many scholars agree that Egyptian mythology wasn't purely symbolic. To the Egyptians, these divine encounters were part of everyday life and governance. Priests and temple ceremonies were designed to facilitate communication between gods and mortals. Could the Egyptians have truly experienced something beyond our understanding? Perhaps their intricate belief system was their way of documenting extraordinary encounters that defied explanation. Hindu myths, gods in physical form. In Hindu mythology, gods often took on physical forms to interact directly with humanity. This concept, known as avatars, is central to Hindu belief, with gods like Vishnu descending to earth in human or animal form to restore balance and order. These appearances weren't just symbolic, they were considered real events. One of Vishnu's most well-known avatars is Krishna, who played a critical role in the epic tale of the Mahabharata. During the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna served as Arjuna's charioteer and guide, offering advice on duty, morality, and the nature of existence. To Hindus, this wasn't a metaphor but a literal historical moment. Similarly, Rama, another avatar of Vishnu, was believed to have physically walked the earth and fought the demon king Ravana. Temples dedicated to Rama often claim to house relics or artifacts from his time on earth, further emphasizing the belief in his physical presence. In Hindu temples, many devotees believe that gods can manifest themselves during prayers or rituals. Stories of miraculous visions or divine interventions during festivals are common, reinforcing the idea that gods don't just exist in another realm but can appear in the physical world. The Mahabharata and Ramayana describe gods not as distant deities but as protectors and guides who step into human affairs when needed. This belief in divine intervention continues today, with millions of Hindus viewing these stories as historical accounts rather than mythology. Was the concept of avatars merely a way to explain moral lessons, or did the ancients truly witness beings of immense power walking among them? The sheer consistency of these stories suggests that ancient Hindus saw these encounters as more than symbolic. Mesoamerican myths, feathered serpents and divine visitors. The civilizations of Mesoamerica, including the Aztecs and the Mayans, were rich with stories of gods walking among humans. One of the most famous figures is Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, who was believed to have physically appeared as a human figure to teach agriculture, science, and art. According to legend, Quetzalcoatl was not only a creator god but also a teacher who lived among his people before departing across the sea. His departure sparked a prophecy of his return, which some historians believe contributed to the Aztecs initially mistaking the Spanish conquistadors for divine beings. The Olmec civilization, predating the Aztecs, also had myths of divine rulers who were seen as intermediaries between gods and humans. Many of their massive stone heads are believed to depict these divine or semi-divine leaders. Temples dedicated to Quetzalcoatl and other gods were seen as places where divine encounters could occur. Priests performed rituals and sacrifices to communicate with the gods and invoke their physical presence during important ceremonies. The Mayans had similar beliefs about gods intervening in human affairs. Their calendar and astronomical knowledge were tied to the movements of their gods, who they believed could influence events on Earth. Were these encounters with Quetzalcoatl and other gods symbolic representations of nature's power, or did Mesoamerican cultures document something extraordinary? The legends of their gods' physical presence continue to captivate modern scholars and theorists. Modern theories? Were these encounters real? When examining myths of gods walking among humans, several modern theories attempt to explain the origins of these stories. The first theory is the literal belief that these encounters truly happened. Many ancient cultures had a different understanding of reality, where gods, spirits, and supernatural beings were integrated into daily life. The second theory suggests that these myths were symbolic representations of nature's power or human struggles. For example, Zeus's lightning bolts could symbolize storms, while Thor's battles against giants might represent natural disasters. The third and most controversial theory is the ancient astronaut hypothesis. According to this theory, the beings described as gods were actually advanced extraterrestrial visitors. Their technology and abilities may have seemed godlike to ancient humans, who immortalized these encounters in myth. Supporters of this theory point to ancient texts and artifacts that depict flying chariots, mysterious beings descending from the sky, and advanced knowledge of astronomy. Could these descriptions be evidence of extraterrestrial contact? Skeptics argue that these stories are simply the result of human imagination or symbolic storytelling. However, the fact that so many different cultures share similar myths raises questions about whether there is a common source for these beliefs. Which theory do you find most compelling? Were the gods symbolic creations of human imagination, or did ancient humans witness something extraordinary that science has yet to explain? The evidence we have today. To determine whether ancient myths of divine encounters were based on real events, we can look at archaeological evidence and ancient texts. One of the most intriguing examples is the Sumerian tablets, which describe the Anunnaki, a group of deities who allegedly came from the heavens to create and guide humanity. The Egyptian pyramids and temples contain inscriptions depicting gods interacting with pharaohs. Some artifacts even show what appear to be advanced technological objects, leading to speculation about extraterrestrial involvement. In Mesoamerica, carvings and codices depict gods descending from the sky or interacting with rulers. The Mayan calendar, with its precise astronomical knowledge, has been linked to the belief that their gods provided this advanced understanding. Modern scholars have debated whether these depictions were literal or symbolic. Some argue that the ancients were documenting real encounters, while others believe these were metaphorical representations of natural phenomena or spiritual visions. Mysterious archaeological finds, such as ancient structures aligned perfectly with celestial bodies, suggest that these civilizations had knowledge that may have come from an unknown source. Were their gods providing this knowledge, or did they acquire it through observation and ingenuity? The evidence is intriguing, but it leaves us with more questions than answers. Were these gods real beings who walked among humans, or were they powerful symbols used to explain the world around them? Myth or reality? As we've seen, ancient myths from around the world describe gods physically interacting with humans, guiding them, testing them, and even fighting alongside them. But were these encounters purely fictional, symbolic, or something more extraordinary? Many ancient cultures believed these stories were real. Their temples, rituals, and sacred texts all point to a worldview where gods weren't distant figures but active participants in human affairs. Whether or not these encounters actually happened, they had a profound impact on the development of religion, culture, and society. Modern interpretations range from skepticism to belief in ancient astronauts. Could it be that these myths are evidence of a forgotten chapter in human history, one where advanced beings visited the Earth and left behind traces of their presence? Perhaps the most compelling aspect of these myths is their universality. Why did so many civilizations, separated by time and geography, tell similar stories of gods walking among them? Was this a coincidence, or does it hint at a shared experience buried in humanity's collective memory? In the end, the question remains open. Maybe the gods didn't leave. Maybe they just found new ways to hide among us. What do you think? Are these stories just ancient fantasies, or do they contain hidden truths waiting to be uncovered? Are the stories of gods walking among us just ancient fantasies, or do they hide clues about our forgotten past? If you want to keep exploring the mysteries of ancient myths and legends, make sure to subscribe to Ancient Chronicles. Your next mythological journey is just a click away.